Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Insider Webcast and Podcast. I'm Jeff Bergerson, joined as always by my partner, the mysterious one, Zachary Turcotte. We're with FantasyGolfInsider.com, your number one resource for everything fantasy golf, including your home for DFS golf. Come check out our tools, our articles, everything, become a profitable and just better overall player. This broadcast is available in podcast form on iTunes and Stitcher. Check us out there. If you don't have time to watch us, just listen to us on your drive. Give us a good review on those, and also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can make sure you know exactly when our video comes out every week. Zachary, this week we have a special shout out to a loyal FGI member, Bo Bowman, who qualified to go play Pinehurst on the DK qualifier this week. Pretty impressive win.
Guy was just excited out of his mind last night. I don't know if you guys remember us talking about Bo last year, but Bo is the one who was responsible for the Clint Eastwood painting that I got to carry back to my office in the rain last year. He also sent me that really nice bottle of Macallan Scotch, so the good karma coming back to him. Yesterday, he was just so excited. I could almost envision him just shaking as he won. He took first and second in the contest. Had two $16 entries, and he was first and second in the contest. So that's really exciting. He's been a fan for quite a while, and I don't even know if he really realized that what in fact he had won for the whole contest. So he gets to go play 3 different courses out there over, I think, 5 days.
That's awesome.
DraftKings puts on just first-class events, so I'm sure everything around the contests are going to be a ton of fun as well, so I'm envious. It should be a great time.
Congrats, Bo. The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am mercifully comes to an end. Another year of horrible celebrity golf.
Carson Daly was the winner yesterday.
Right.
I couldn't believe that. I was shocked. Who was his partner on that?
Was it Duke? I think it was Duke, but bad weather, bad amateurs, terrible television coverage.
It's just amazing how few actual highlights they're able to get from the celebrity players that are out there. The first day it always throws me off because I think that typically they're going to cut to a guy and the shot's going to go somewhere either close to the cup or in the cup. You know, here's Aaron Rodgers on 17. He's got a 30-foot par putt here. Oh, he comes up just about 8 feet short. What? Why did we see the highlight? I don't understand. You see that over. Oh, here's Bill Belichick. Oh, he chipped it right over the green. Fantastic. I mean, just
thanks for showing that.
Yeah. Again and again and again, you get a lot of just non-highlights for the weekend.
Drives me crazy without Shot Tracker.
Yeah, I know, the 2 courses.
Insane.
And then some of the guys actually look like they might be professional. So they'll pull up to a guy and he's taking a shot. Who is this? Oh, it's a celebrity. Right. Dang it. And you see the ball just go over into the grandstand area. So
it's over.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of the last tournament of the year.
The quirky rotation
has all that weird stuff going with multiple courses and the lengthy pro-am going on. So we get to the real deal starting this week, and we have one hell of a field.
Yeah, we do. Jordan Spieth, turns out he's not so bad.
Yeah. Well,
people were throwing dirt on him, and
that's exactly what happened last year. And he came out and he got his win. And same thing this weekend. You just looked at him after Thursday and Friday, and you thought, "Ooh, I probably should have owned a few more shares." He's in my core group.
I said to you Friday night, this baby is done. Signed, sealed, delivered.
It looked like Day at least would have a chance, and Day played just astoundingly bad on Saturday. One just hideous round. I'm not sure what happened. He got the yips again with his putter. He was missing a lot of short putts, which it's kind of unbelievable to see with Day, but he did bounce back. But midway through Saturday, I sometimes will try to put the hex out there on guys and say it's over. But with Spieth, you knew it was over. When he gets a big lead like that, outside of the Masters last year, he tends to close it in runaway fashion.
Yeah, and he didn't have to do anything on Sunday. He would just play ultra conservative, pound in the middle of the green, wasn't going to make big errors, and he coasted.
Yeah.
We had DJ, another DJ type performance. I mean, solid, makes his runs where he looks unbelievable, and then other times where he just kind of checks out for
a little
time
carefree.
periods.
Yeah, missed a handful of putts that probably could have kept him in the event. It was just a few shots back. Could have been in second place. That would have made you a little bit happier there.
Yeah, it would have made me a little bit more money, but that
putt
was so bad.
And that's amazing. And then you look at that, you never realize that until you really get into fantasy, just how much some of these putts are costing you and then the actual players.
Yeah, so what did it cost?
That was about $150,000 missed 5 or 6 foot putt that he had there on the end that he wasn't even close on.
But when you compare what he lost to what I lost compared to our net worth, I lost much, much worse than he did.
Sure, yeah.
Another tough week to get 6 guys through the cut. Again, like between 5 and 8% of all entries across DK got 6 of 6.
Middle range of guys that everybody thought were your cut makers for the week. Oh, Kuchar. Kuchar's always a cut maker. Goodbye. He fell apart at the end. Furyk, everybody thought he was going to be the guy. And
Sean O'Hare.
Maybe we deserve to get burned with Furyk a little bit because it was his first event of the season. I didn't play a huge amounts of him overall. I liked him in cash just because I thought, well, he will make the cut.
Yep.
It was probably a dumb mistake to put him into GPPs at all just because you knew the upside wasn't going to be there. But it did also look like, well, you can fill a slot here. You
and
can
the price
save
was
some
so
money.
low, which is what drew me in.
So, yeah, so he missed, and that definitely hurt. O'Hare's miss obviously hurt a lot of people.
Big.
Yeah, Dirt McGirt.
Yeah.
Double bogey on 18 to miss by 1. I mean, it was really unbelievable. Some of the guys who found a way not to make the cut there right at the end. So, yeah, I mean, every week we say the pricing's soft, and once again this week, it looks like the pricing is super soft again. And we're going to get to Saturday, Sunday, and we're going to be looking at teams, and you're going to say, oh, well, there's 5% of guys who are actually able to make it through, which I think just goes to show you that there is just a ton of parity right now in the PGA world, and that's a big change from over the last 3 seasons since we really first got into it back a few years ago.
Oh, for sure.
A lot more people can contend, and you're going to see a lot more guys who are struggling right along that cut line every week. So it'll keep it exciting all year long.
Let's turn the page because the next few weeks are going to be good, solid events, one course, good fields. So I'm excited looking forward.
Yeah.
Heading into Augusta.
Even without Tiger around?
I'm okay.
You're okay with that?
I mean, obviously, with Tiger, there's more interest from the general public. I don't really care.
Are we going to see him before the Masters?
I would doubt it. I think no. I think we will not see him before the Masters. Will we see him at the Masters?
It's hard to say. I mean, maybe that's like the big farewell. You know, he plays the Masters, and that'll be the one he plays every year during his twilight years. Right. I can't see him jump into the Champions Tour in 9 years or so from now when he finally becomes eligible, and I don't think he cares enough to go on to the senior tour.
Oh, well, he'll play in the tournaments with the affiliation with his charity and stuff, I think. He'll maybe play a handful of events a year, but
that's probably the way for him to go.
Yep, I think so.
I don't see a need for him to come back and try. It's not going to taint a legacy because his legacy is so strong as it is already.
Sure.
That you'd have to really just embarrass yourself for the next 5 to 10 years doing what he's doing right now. So it's not going to hurt him at all, but you just feel bad watching it go again and again and again. You just see the same thing over and over. The only real benefit is that if you're in the fantasy community, you're always going to be able to take advantage of it because no matter what happens,
he will have ownership.
You will have 5 to 10% ownership almost every single event that he ends up playing in. So in that regard, there is a little bit of money-making possibility just as long as you are not betting it on Tiger.
Right. All right, on to this week's event, the Genesis Open, formerly known as the Northern Trust. The Northern Trust is now the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs this year. It is in New York. We are at Riviera, as we were for the Northern Trust in the past, Country Club in Pacific Palisades, California. Par 71, 7,322 yards. That's all. There is only one course this week, so it's not like a land of confusion like the 3-course rotation that we had last week. Also, unlike last week at the Pro-Am, The rough will be longer, so the guys won't want to get in too deep. An absolutely loaded field this week. 8 out of the top 10 guys in the world will be there. Bubba Watson, defending champ, ranks 13th right now in the world, but the way he's been playing, he's kind of been throwing that all away.
Ugly.
Key stats that we'll be building around our model. Strokes gained tee to green is the stat that we will have the highest weighting on, but I can't dance around the fact that strokes gained putting is important as well. Par 5 scoring, birdies are better, driving distance, proximity. Be sure to check out our model. Everything's interchangeable, and we'll have that posted on our site tonight.
What are you doing over there? You feeling like a Phil Collins thing?
Let's start at the top, Zachary. I know you always like just Dustin Johnson. Tell me why.
Have another drink. I mean, DJ's been pretty dominant here. And his game's been great the last couple of years. He's been a top 5 machine here at this event year in and year out. So, he's going to be in the mix come Sunday. So it's pretty dependable. Spieth is one of those guys. He's the most expensive. He's up to 12.6 now. Mm-hmm. But there is enough. At first I saw 12.6. I thought, ooh, that's going to make things difficult. And then I looked at the rest of the pricing. I thought, well, not so much actually. So if you do want to play Spieth, if you have a strong feeling. They didn't make it that difficult to get him in the lineups this week.
And in the higher dollar contests, I guarantee he's not going to be highly owned.
No, people are not going to go back to him after a win.
They never do, and he's highest priced, and they never like Spieth.
I think the big guys this week, you're going to see a lot of Matsuyama ownership there at the top, and rightly so. And you're going to see a lot of Dustin Johnson ownership at the top, probably also rightly so. And I do like both of those guys. The reasons with Spieth, he's been a little bit up and down here over the years. I'm not sure that he will just dominate all season and win every week. And at 12.6, I'd rather see his price be a little bit 600 to 1,000 lower before I'm comfortable loading up there. Adam Scott really hasn't played much this year. He played in Singapore. I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. He took 9th.
Super weak field, though.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't really know what to expect from him there. So, but he was second place last year. So I think
and he was coming off of. I think he played at Sony before. Didn't have a good outing last year, but then out of nowhere took a second here and then won the next 2 events.
Right.
So he could show up.
Jason Day doesn't have a lot of tournament history here for the last 4 or 5 years, so I think that will take his ownership down a little bit. Although overall, it feels like after watching him last week that the game is on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, I think so.
Other than the one bad round, the third round where he was lost out there, he looked really good. That could be a real opportunity at 10,000. Mm-hmm. I'm probably not going to see Jason Day at 10,000, especially in a field like this. You're going to end up seeing him at 11, 11.5.
And I don't think his ownership will be much more than like 15
I don't think so either, because
17%.
I think that a lot of people will build around that Matsuyama DJ team.
Yep.
You can actually stack 2. This is one of those rare weeks where you can very easily stack 2 of these guys at the top. I actually built a cash lineup at my first look with Matsuyama and DJ, and didn't feel the least bit uncomfortable with the other 4 guys that I threw in. So there's a ton of options. I know you were looking at Justin Thomas as a little contrarian play. Are you going to be in on him for a lot of shares or just a few this week?
I would say not massive amount, but I think I'll be overweight the field at 20%.
Sure.
Justin Thomas this week.
I could see him only being at like 9 or 10.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, and why? I mean, he's got a phenomenal tee degree game. He will fit well at Riviera. He hasn't done outstanding.
They're going to look at the history and say,
different player.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, he's a far different player.
They're going to see that he missed the cut the other week at Phoenix and cut my throat pretty much on my big team that last time out. So there will be a little bit of hesitation there. And he's got so many guys right in his range. I mean, one up is Day. One below him is Sergio,
who won his last time out.
Yeah, so so you know that Sergio is going to be popular. Plus, Sergio's always been really good at this course.
Right.
So I think there's just a
Except
lot of
last year.
Yeah, he looked
but he lost in the playoff. Was it playoff the year before? I think.
No, he didn't.
Or Tahan.
He was in the lead and he blew
it.
He was in the lead
blew
late.
it bad.
and crumbled on the last couple of holes.
Yep.
Ended up taking 4th place 2 years ago, but he has a number of top 10 finishes this year. I think Patrick Reed will probably be a guy who gets completely ignored.
He hasn't been great. He hasn't been an absolute disaster.
No, I mean, he's making cuts.
Yep.
He's not really in contention right now so far this year, which you were hoping that the Ryder Cup would give him a little bit of a push into that.
Yeah.
And for a guy who said a few years back that I'm a top 5 player in the world, we just haven't seen it quite yet in terms of how he's elevated his game. Looking down a little bit lower, I think Justin Rose at 8,400 is a great buy. He wasn't fantastic this last week, and he was super heavily owned. I mean,
Right.
God, he was
Justin Rose is never that heavily owned.
He was like 40, 50% owned in GPP events and 60% in a lot of the cash game events that I looked at. I don't know that will be the case. I think people will be probably trying to load up with the top guys a little bit more. So I think his ownership will probably fall back into in line into that 15 to 17% range. But I think he's a pretty solid prospect right there. And then Bubba Watson, he hurt me a lot at Phoenix. You know, he's had a couple tough outings. Is he in the twilight of his career? I don't know. He's always been very good here, and I think there's an opportunity to own him this week with a little bit less ownership than what we would normally see, because this game has been down a little bit. I think 8,300 is still a pretty good price. This does play well for a bomber. This is one of a handful of courses all year where you like Bubba, even though I think I swore him off 2 weeks ago. When
his putting has been atrocious, but it's going to be wet there, so the Bombers are going to have a bit of an edge because there isn't going to be any roll. So I think he's legit. I don't know. I think he'll be owned by 20%, though, even playing as poorly as he is, just because his tournament history and his price tag.
This is a tougher week with all these. There's so many guys up here at the top who will draw in ownership that I think I don't necessarily think that I'm super worried. I think Matsuyama and DJ are going to have a ton of ownership right there. Sergio will have quite a bit. I think a lot of these guys from coming all the way down, then into the mid and lower 7,000s, the ownership is going to be spread pretty well. It won't be like last week.
I don't think it's going to be too spread with the pricing, though. I mean, look at who's down here. Brooks Koepka, J.B. Holmes, both at 7,100. Brendan Steele. That is just, DK continues to But
what I'm saying is, instead of there being just one terribly mispriced player at that price point, there's many. So it's not going to be one of those areas where everybody is right in on one guy, because there's like 7 or 8 guys in the lower range that people can own this week in all formats. So I think even there, it won't be crazy excessive.
Last week with the mispricing, I loaded up on cash games, and I did pretty well on the cash game portion. They pretty much paid for my GPPs, which didn't do much last week. But I just think with this mispricing, and I wouldn't do one cash game team, because anything can happen with a particular guy. Last week I did 5 cash game teams. We generally say like 3 is a good spot, but spread the huge value plays around. Koepka, Holmes, Snedeker is a tremendous value for his price this week. Steele, Furyk, these guys who are most likely going to outproduce their price. The more you can mix and match, don't own them on all your cash game teams.
Yeah, I feel like there isn't more of an advantage in playing cash games in a stronger field with some of the softer pricing we're seeing right here. Because in GPPs, there's not really anything that prevents any of the other owners from making really elite teams pretty easily. So in GPPs, what you're going to have to do is find 2 or 3 guys that just are completely overlooked by the rest of it. You're gonna have to find Oppenheim. You're gonna have to find Kelly Craft.
Not this week. You won't have to find those guys.
Yeah. Well, but that's usually what is gonna happen for the big contest winners, because everybody is gonna have all of these players on their GPP rosters.
Yep.
So it gets really tough, because you just don't have to maneuver all that much to put together a really elite
and
squad.
I think the big dogs are going to own it this week like they did last week. All of them will be up near the top. So yeah, you're right. Find those guys who have very low ownership, and I don't think that's that difficult this week. Yeah. To try and pick out some guys that have a reasonable chance of jumping up.
Who do you see in like the 7,000? We talked about a lot of the guys who will be highly owned. Who do you see in the mid to low 7,000 range that might not be so highly owned?
So there were a few guys, and I always look through all my information before the prices come out and come up with sleepers, which is why I was a little disappointed when I see Holmes and Koepka at 71, because the sleepers that I like
Sleeping Giants
are higher priced than them. But Sung Yul No was one guy that I identified has a few good performances here at Riviera. Looked good last week, hadn't looked good before then, but I think that's a reasonable play. Graham McDowell at 7,400 stood out to me. I don't know. He might be putting it together.
Wow.
He might have the invisible touch. What do you think of that?
Phil Collins reference again. They're all over the place tonight. Beautiful. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, McDowell, that one's, man, no history here. The form is okay. He's not usually a player that you're really
he's not.
all over at all. What makes him stand out? He's not really a distance guy.
He's been playing better
overseas. When he's on his game, he's usually putting really well. That helps. Right. Short game play is usually pretty good. I don't know if that's going to be propelling him this week, but he won't be very highly owned. Probably
he will not be.
2%.
Yeah, I would say 2 or 3%.
2 or 3 tops, right there.
A couple other guys, Brian Harmon down at 6,900.
Yeah, do you think people are people still going to be overlooking him considering how well he's been playing?
Well,
I mean, there's so many guys,
so many other options.
Gets back to other conversation that we're people are looking at. I mean, Webb Simpson right there.
Right. Well, that's another guy.
Billy Herschel at 6,900.
Yep.
So they've had guys price. It's just wide open. What DraftKings has done is they're just allowing us at this stage of the season to build almost like what they do with the majors.
Right.
They want you to be a little, I don't know, maybe that's just to attract novice type of players.
I think so.
Get people comfortable with the lineups, because eventually they'll smack us with one of those weeks where it does get difficult to.
But by now it's apparent that it's on purpose. I mean, it's not just a 1 week deal
they could
or
put
an accident.
They could put these prices out on Saturday if they wanted to.
Oh,
I mean,
for sure.
They always wait till after the odds, but I'm not even sure I really understand why at this point, when they've got so many guys who are well below where their Vegas odds would be. So
Ollie Schneider-Jans at 6,900. I think that's a reasonable GPP play as well.
He's looked good this season. I mean, he looked great out at Torrey when we saw him play just a few weeks ago there. He's been making cuts consistently. Again, that's been the big thing for him. He'll have a streak of 2 or 3 weeks in a row where it looks like he's going to emerge, and then he'll have 2 or 3 just hideous weeks where he's last in the field. And he seems to have gotten over the hump a little bit there to a point where you can at least trust him to get through the cut.
Who are a couple of guys that you're looking at down in that range?
Well, if we scroll way down here, I mean, there's a few guys that are really obvious. I think Adam Hadwin at this point. I'm not sure what does
that guy have to do?
Needs to do. I mean, he's making cuts. He's finishing in the upper half of the field.
Isn't a course that I would generally say that he sets up well for. However, Torrey didn't really look like that either.
No, and the difference is when you look at his stats is his approach game has tremendously improved. He's never going to be a bigger hitter, so he's never going to gain a lot of strokes off the tee. But his approach game has improved a lot from the past couple of years, and that helps you out a lot on a course like this. So even
especially when you putt like him.
Yeah, and he's a lights out. He's an elite putter. He's typically going to be a guy who's in the top 10 or top 20 every year in terms of his putting. And 6,600. I mean, the min price this week is 64.
Right.
So you can play him in cash. You can play him in GPP. So you got to love that. If you're looking to take a little more risk, there's Kevin Chappell, who finally showed up a little bit until Sunday over the weekend. He's at 67.
He was one of my peripheral players in GPPs last week. I had a little bit of ownership, and typical Kevin Chappell looks absolutely amazing. What was it, Saturday, I think, and then Sunday.
Right in the running, and then him and Phil Mickelson just right off a cliff there. So there's that. You know, I know we had a lot of folks chat me up on Periscope last week about Bob Estes.
What do you like about Bob Estes this week?
I ignored it the first 3 times. Like 3 different times I see somebody at Bob Estes, and I just let those go.
I think they were messing with you.
And then I saw
those in those little lips that come up on Periscope, like
from the Russian girls. Yeah, so then I saw one from the Tour Junkies. They're like, "What do you, Bob Estes?" And I was like, "Well, if it's from the Tour Junkies, I'll take a moment to answer it." And I guess Pat was on Bob Estes last week. And then once I actually mentioned Bob Estes, it turned into a virus.
Right.
Then there was many mentions of Estes. There was some Estes messages on Twitter over the weekend. Of course, he missed the cut by 4 strokes.
Did you make it clear we were not on Bob Estes?
Those are my favorite.
For God's sakes.
Those are my favorite Periscope questions. I hear people talking about Rory Sabatini this week. See, you should take some medication for that to get those voices out of your head.
That's right.
Because there's nobody that I know who's talking. Yeah, I hear there's a lot of buzz on Michael Thompson. I'm like, I wouldn't say there's a lot of buzz. You may have heard one other person
throw out a name
out there, but
like some of the podcasts that list all 140 names and it's
just go for the whole hour from top to bottom. Yeah, and it gets people a little bit excited about everybody, but the field is not quite that deep overall. But there are a ton of playable folks, even down at the bottom. I can't think that I'll stomach it, but even KJ Choi down there at 60. This is his event right here. If he's going to make a cut anywhere all season, this would be the one. I don't know if I'll actually be able to be a buyer on that or not, but
I'm going to pass.
You're passing? Last year he was a core guy for me. I owned a lot of them, and
I know, but it was a different year.
It was a different KJ Choi.
It was.
His game has devolved. So.
But he's not the only Choi in the field to choose from this week. So there's another Choi.
Yeah, there's another one who's priced.
I don't like either.
Who's priced much higher.
Much higher.
It was one of those random names.
Something called Michael Block is in the field too this week. So
yeah, and he's not min priced.
No, he's not.
He's 7,000. He has no. He has missed 2 cuts here, and he has no recent form showing up to speak of at all. So
that's smart.
I don't know how that ends up happening every single week, but
sounds like a T3.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So
any other picks or anything? No Euro event this week on DraftKings because it's got kind of a mixed format. So
but that'll be back next week.
Yeah. For more of our picks, be sure to read the Daily Spin by Zachary, the Hardcore Core by me, so people can follow you, follow me.
We got Jason's column that'll be coming out first tee. Perry's is that up yet? Did you post that yet?
That's up. That's
awesome.
up.
So that'll be up, and then David's will be up probably tomorrow.
Yep.
Too, so.
Periscope.
Yeah, Jason should be back tomorrow. I think he did it from Hawaii last week, which was awesome, with a drink in his hand, a cocktail.
Sweet.
I'll be up on Wednesday to take the usual trolling that I get from about half the audience. A handful of serious questions.
That's
here
right.
And there. But it should be a fun event. These should be a good next few weeks for the golf season.
If you have any questions, strategy, or otherwise, feel free to email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Of course, follow us on Twitter at @fantasygolfers. But for this week, good luck, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good luck.